Did you see last night's QED programme, A Man Who Writes Birdsong? It told the extraordinary story of David Hindley, who gave up teaching music to listen to the birds. And he now claims to have discovered that the average skylark has the musical brain of a Beethoven. Have a look at this.
If you teach music, you may not necessarily compose music. Even if you do, it's often only the greats like Gustav Holst who find their own voice. I've written music that reflects the influence of everyone from Bach to Stockhausen. But lately, I've been searching for a more unusual source of inspiration. And now, I think I've found it.
Good morning.
Morning.
Nice to see you. It was a fascinating programme, but I have to ask you, didn't people think you were a little bit batty when you first said that you were going to give up teaching and go and listen to the birds?
Oh, yes. I think so. And I thought I was batty too, really. Because I thought, well, here I am in a reasonably safe job for 15 more years. Why give it up now at this stage? But I suppose the birds of the wild called.
How did you get, I mean, what gave you the idea then? Were you sort of sitting there one day and heard a bird and thought, oh?
No, I've been interested in birdsong for a number of years, actually. And indeed, a lot of the recordings I'd made had been made about 10, 15 years ago. So therefore, I'd done some groundwork. But I felt that the time had come to really spend more time on it.
Well, lots of people want to talk to you this morning. The first one on the line is Sylvia Taylor. Sylvia, hello, good morning to you.
Hello.
Morning, Sylvia.
What would you like to ask?
Hello. It was a fascinating programme. Enjoyed it very much. David, I think you made a comment to the effect that a skylark composes thousands of songs between dawn and dusk. And I'd just like to ask you, did your research evaluate a whole day's song? Were the songs, in fact, all different? Or was there some repetition?
That's a very good question. I'm afraid that my own experience of being able to analyse birdsong has been very limited, in actual fact. I've only really analysed about 2 or 3 skylark songs, lasting only about 48 seconds. I mean, it would be wonderful if I could spend much longer actually looking at a whole range of bird songs like skylarks and so forth, but it would take hours and years to do so because the skylark pours out so much music. It's impossible, really. But there we are. I'm afraid that probably a new incarnation might do that. But I think I must spend my time doing that then.
Could you explain to us simply what it is that you think that something like a skylark possibly have in common with one of the great composers?
Well, it's the organisation and coherence of the song which attracts me. I mean, the patterns that it produces are so ingenious, and they're not just stereotype patterns and produced like automata. Because
a lot of animal behaviourists would say that's exactly what they are. They're kind of robotic and functional.
Yes, that's exactly what I do complain about. I think we tend to be rather arrogant in our human position to regard anything which is created by other species of animals as being, as it were, inferior. No, I do believe that birds like the skylark are creative, but obviously we need to analyse that more thoroughly, perhaps.
Okay, let's go to Caerphilly now, and Mandy Williams. Good morning, Mandy.
Oh, hello.
Good morning, Mandy.
Hello, David. Your research has shown that Beethoven and the skylark use the same rules to compose their music. Have you thought of researching in other parts of the world where the music is completely different to ours to see if the birdsong there bears a similar relationship to the music of the place and follows the same rules and patterns?
My interest has really been in skylarks and woodlarks. I have listened to many bird songs, but those are the bird songs particularly which I think produce music of tremendous length and so forth, and therefore that's where the interest lies. But one interesting point, though, is that one of the skylark songs which I have also studied and notated is a French skylark. The one which I used for the programme was, in fact, a skylark from Surrey, in actual fact, believe it or not, not from Cambridge.
Is it? Is your French skylark different from your Surrey skylark?
Yes, it sings a totally different language.
No.
Although, in actual fact, if you listen to it in the field, it sounds just like a skylark as we know it, twittering away. But if you actually write down the notes, you see that the patterns are different. And this is, I think, very significant.
So, and would different skylarks be completely unique then, or do they sing
No,
the same
I would
thing?
think that obviously skylarks from the same little area will obviously be using the same kind of melodies and patterns and motives. But the further you get away from the area and go, shall we say, from Scotland, from John O'Groats to Land's End, you'll find quite a large difference, I think.
Fascinating. David Burden from Milton Keynes, good morning to you.
Hello, Mr. Hindley. I think your work is fascinating. I'd like to suggest that Songbird couldn't possibly have evolved this feature simply in order to amuse themselves, that they could be using it in order to convey information, to talk to each other. We have examples in human culture of history being recorded in poetry or music, so that what sounds like a song is actually holding information.
Yes.
What do you think then?
Well, yes. I mean, this is interesting to try to find out why the bird sings. And of course, the important thing, I think, is that birds obviously are going to communicate with each other. I mean, the skylark is there up in the sky declaiming away, all my predators must get away here, and they mustn't disturb my mate on its nest. And therefore it's shouting away, go away, look at me instead if you like. But I feel somehow that the song is more than just that. I think also it is probably, it has exuberance inside it and the spirits of itself, and it wants to shout probably to other skylarks, look how well I sing better than anybody else. Listen to my creativity as well.
Talking of that, I mean, there was a slight criticism perhaps in the programme in that by so critically analysing the composition of its song, you kind of destroy its spirit.
Yes. That's inevitable, of course. As you slow it down, therefore you lose the spirit. And so therefore the compositions which I write around it, I've tried to bring back that spirit by surrounding it with all kinds of other notes and so forth.
Okay, Bristol now, and Marjorie Shipcott. Hello, Marjorie.
Hello, hello.
Marjorie.
Hello.
What would you like to say?
First of all, I found the programme most interesting and enjoyable. Your music was to me, very listenable. Now, there is a point you might like to know about. A couple of years ago, right through the breeding season, there was a blackbird right outside my window in the copper beech tree. And he sang the exact phrase, practically note for note, from Beauty and the Beast, from the Mother Goose Suite. And I found that very interesting. Now, what do you think about that?
Well, there you are. You see, you're just proving or giving another example of the kind of thing I've been saying, that birds, you know, have music in them, which we as human beings ought to be listening to more thoroughly. And perhaps Ravel, you see, heard this blackbird, or maybe a relation of the blackbird which you heard, and probably notated it, you see, and that's why it's there in Beauty and the Beast.
Now, Marjorie was talking about your compositions,
Yes.
as you say, you compose around them, and they got a team of experts in on the documentary, and they all seemed to go down very well, didn't they?
Well, I was relieved somewhat. To be honest, I hadn't seen that programme until last night, and so I was in fear and trepidation, not knowing quite what's going to happen in the end of the day. But in actual fact, as it came through, it seemed to be all right, and they were reasonably impressed, I think.
Well, we've got someone who's rung in now, Tony Durham, who says he's going to perform for us the Skylark song. Tony, are you there?
Good morning. Yes, I am, and it's most interesting. Here's the skylark, and all birds have accents, whether north or south, by the way.
Okay, Tony.
How many notes per second are you able to perform, Tony?
I'm not sure, but the actual fact, if you put it on an analytic sound machine, it's more or less exactly the same as the skylark, except for it alters slightly. When I'm doing all other bird impressions, also you'll find that it's very similar to the actual bird itself, and to the human ear it is the same, but the actual fact is that under analysing scopes such as Bath University, we have found that they are slightly different.
Yes. I would like to make a recording, I think, of your song, and I would like to spend some more time analysing each note. I think it'd be a very interesting, fascinating sort of study.
But do you think he's done quite well there?
Very well indeed. Yes, I think that this needs more research, definitely.
I think that's a bit of a first for open air, and a bird impression in the morning. Thank you very much, Tony.
Right.
So do you think that the phrase bird brain needs to be reassessed
Oh,
by us then?
definitely. Oh, yes, I think that if we ought to remove that phrase from the English language altogether. Oh, yes, I have a great respect and admiration for birds.
Now, we're going to be able to go out and buy the album of your compositions now, then? They're all going to be available?
Not at the moment, I'm afraid. I'm still waiting for pianists to come along and say, I want to have your music, let me play it. And then perhaps one day we might do. No, at the present moment, there's not much of my music available, I'm afraid, for purchase.
But obviously you'd like it to be.
Well, of course. Yes. Yes, it's the only way, isn't it? I mean, artists can paint their pictures, and therefore they can see them there. But a musician has to wait for somebody to perform their music before, in fact, they can actually hear what they've created.
Well, it's been really fascinating talking to you and listening to the documentary last night. David, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.